I think with me and Indy were both quite surprised by how, people say, oh, it's bold or it's like, I'm like, oh no, but people say that stuff all the time. I was like, oh, but not in theatre, but that's theatre's problem, right? My name's Nima, and I've written this adaptation of the Bacchae, which is about two cousins, one Dionysos, the god of wine, rhyme, and a good time, who comes back to Thebes, where his mortal family's from, to get worship, acceptance, and love from Pentheus, who's the king of Thebes and is his mortal cousin. However, they have like very different ways of, they have different cultures. Dionysos sort of worships chaos, frenzy, and orgiastic, liberated good time. And Pentheus is more puritanical, repressed, totalitarian type of leader. So they combust a little bit. The Bacchae are Dionysos' followers. They're all women, and they come from Asia as well, like Dionysos. And they're his, his PR, his his army, his worshippers, his lovers, all of that. Well, with the rhyme stuff, I'd like sort of grew up rap battling in the playground and stuff. And then when I went to university, I was like, I just was really conscious that that's a way that I used to express myself. I rapped my Shakespeare exam for Professor Carol Chillington-Rattle, who's like one of the wickedest Shakespeare scholars ever. And that was like one of the most formative moments where I was like, right, I can fuse these two things and the form and the content are connected rather than like, oh, I could have just written that in exam and I chose to rap it because I thought it was cool or fun. It was like the form and the content like meet and match and they matter and they're like umbilically connected. So I was like, so that put the thing in my head. I was like, I could maybe do this one day with something more. I don't know what, but yeah, no, I went into acting after university. So I studied English literature at university. Then I did my first play in the summer between my degree and my MA. And that was called The White Whale by Slunglow. And again, that was for free for 500 people a night on a floating platform on the Leeds-Liverpool Dock Canal, and it was to serve the local community. Main inspiration would be like where I grew up, the people I grew up around, the schools I went to, the environments I was in, the family I come from, the political heritage I have. One of my favourite plays is The Last Days of Judas Iscariot by Stephen Adly Gurgis. I think he's wicked, and his language is free, and there's colloquialisms in it as well, so he's not just representing like this niche, small elite part of society in its language as well, and I love that about it too. At the beginning, it was just like this fun like thing that I was doing. It must like sometimes, and then when I brought it here, and it became like, right, this is going on. This has been programmed in, you're going to start rehearsals in 6 months. Go, and I was like, ah. It was a 66-page script at the time. It's now a 32-page one. So I had a very faithful translation that I started with. But then also, if I remember correctly, somehow I just decided that the Bacchae weren't going to be a homogenous chorus. The story wasn't going to start with Dionysos as it does in the original. It's going to start with the individual Bacchae members coming and setting the scene and honestly putting on a play. Rehearsals were so fun. Like, they were the most intense but the most fun part of the process, and I really wasn't sure how I'd feel because it stops being private. Even when it got announced, I was like, oh, it's still a little bit private. It's still, no one knows really the ins and outs, what's going on. It's still me and my director and the drum techs, we're workshopping and stuff behind the scenes. But rehearsals felt like, okay, this is out there, this is really happening. There was still loads of cuts and edits and changes we made in rehearsals, but as soon as it became 3D, that all became obvious and easy and organic. I was like, obviously those lines are getting in the way of that narrative, or obviously that line isn't, landing in the way that we want it to, so we just change it. Sort of sculpting parts and lines around a specific actor is really fun. So like if you have James McArdle in the room, you can give him like a certain word and he's going to do something with that. So there's a part where he's up on the tree. And I had originally had there was this huge speech he had, and then I changed it. And then it was like a few back and forths, and then it was more about him taking it all in. And then I was like, none of them felt honest, and it felt like me trying to do a thing. And then I think I just changed. And I was like, one day I was like, I think it just has to be him just in a childlike way, taking in the situation he's in, and it not being like sparkly writing, and it just being like him sharing with the audience how he feels.
Ay caramba!
Steady, you're safe. Don't get fritty.
This has been the absolute craziest day ever.
And then just seeing like the director working wizardry, the lighting, the set, the sound, the dance, then the actors like sprinkle so much like stardust on everything. So it's like things that you could never have imagined, they sort of bring to life in a way that you would never thought of, between the lines, between the moments. But that was Indy's idea, to bring Kate Prince on board, or bring movement in and dance in. And I think it's really cool because there's like the urbanness of the show and the writing and the language and the movement and that love that exists in that culture. I've learned so much, and I think, and that was part of the thing, like the last few weeks I've been like, oh, if I knew what I knew now when I'd started this, I wouldn't have done that, or I'd have changed that. Or if I knew what I knew now, then even 2 months ago I could have changed that or moved that. Yeah, learning on the job can be really exciting, but also really difficult, and you have to give yourself a bit of grace. Also trust yourself a bit. There was moments where I sort of was just looking to my director and dramaturgs for advice and wisdom, where actually it would have been better spent me really connecting and trying to find what's the most authentic, truthful way of doing this and taking accountability. I think one thing that I really learned from it was whenever I tried to appease, Indhu would be like, what's that? I'd be like, oh, but I thought that's what you wanted. But I never said, I was like, I'm trying to do the right thing, and like, this is what a playwright is, or be sensible. I was walking past where I grew up the other day, and I was like, oh, I think this is the little side street on the estate where my granddad taught me to ride a bike. And I was like, no one saw me doing that apart from my granddad, and he helped me and put stabilizers on it. And I was like, that's how you have your first go. Not like this. Yeah, I got no stabilizers on this one. But and I'm trying not to be in the business of giving people advice in general. But I think one nugget is like, yeah, don't be afraid of being naive. Don't think you have to know everything. Naivety can sometimes be like a real strength and a superpower in creativity as well as life. So yeah, don't be scared of your naivety and embrace it. And the most naive part of you is the most vulnerable and the most honest part of you. And it might not be technically perfect, but that's where you'll get some truth and some heart. And I think that's what audiences connect to. When I started sort of working on this, one of the things that I did want was for it not to be an academic exercise, and it not feel like you had to have this requisite knowledge or academic experience or literary or theatrical experience to enjoy it. And I think as soon as you say a word like classics after Greek classics, it alienates a lot of people. And I think society is so polarized, and there is so much alienation when it comes to like high art and what that means. And so I feel like it's so easy to turn your nose up at the idea of things being accessible or welcoming, and accessible becoming like a synonym for simple or stupid or not complicated, and I don't think it is. So I was like, I really thought it was important to stick to my guns and create something where people felt welcomed who weren't normally welcomed into those spaces. I'm just excited about, I don't know, just like the audience reactions have been really, really exciting and really reassuring that we've done something that can move people, make people feel seen, and make people feel held. So that's more than good enough for me.